you don't actually ever have to rebuild. I know, if you're first getting into the dynasty space, you're hearing, oh, well, if you're a contending team, do this, or if you're a rebuilding team, do that. These are the things, these are the ways to play. You don't have to. You can always try to win. Dynasty is fun, more fun when you try to win, right? And fantasy football is weird, right? You never know, when a team that doesn't look too great sneaks into the playoffs and goes on a little run in 3 games in a row and wins that championship. Like, there's a lot of harm in looking at a team and saying, hey, this can't contend. Screw that. Like, go and try to see what trades are out there. Try to reformulate your team, retool your team, and see if you can actually make it into a contender. I think a lot of times people think they need to rebuild, and they kind of miss out on one season or multiple seasons that they probably could have contended in, right? Because at the end of the day, your odds to win a title are only ever really like 30%, even if you're like the number one team. That's not great, right? The odds aren't great for anyone. In any given season, anything can happen. Why not just kind of try to make it work, even if you're not the best in terms of value? Every year you're going to get your first round picks refreshed for the three years out. So this year, after the rookie drafts, you get your 2029 rookie picks. It's not the end of the world if you have low value, because that value can be accrued eventually. Like, if it gets really, really bad, I think really, really bad, where you don't have any value on a roster whatsoever, okay, cool, that is the time to rebuild. But I think far too often people have teams that are completely fine and can contend, but they choose to forego that and enter a rebuild. And let me tell you, rebuilding is hard, right? It's a lot of trading. It's a lot of trying to figure out, like, okay, how can I get my team back to a certain value level? And that's the thing too. Like, people will try to set a goal. It's like, okay, I want to be top 3, top 4 in my league in value. Otherwise, no, I'm not doing it. I don't want to be middle of the road. I don't want to be this like middling team. People are so against that. But those middling teams sometimes win championships, right? They might have, a 2 times less chance entering the playoffs because they have to play that extra game that the bye week teams don't. But they're still there. They're still a shot, right? And so I kind of like the idea, and I think people generally have the bias against this idea that you can be middling every year and still have success in Dynasty. For some reason, people just think, oh, well, you need that first round bye because it gives you the best odds. It does, but so does, like, it's a trade-off, right? Like, you can get the non-bye week teams odds many years in a row, or you can try to shoot for the bye week odds, and maybe you're not even making the playoffs in some years, right? Like, you don't have to go by the model of like, oh, I'm gonna build up this team and then it's gonna crash down eventually, and then I'm gonna have to rebuild again and then just keep on going. You don't have to go through that cycle. I think everybody generally views Dynasty like that, but I don't. I think you can build the team how you want. You can start to retool it if you need to, if you think you need some more firepower. But just know that, like, this is an uncertain game inherently, and you're leaving a lot on the table by kind of just folding and, trying to tank for next year. I think that's, you're kind of potentially better off being a little bit more confident and not being so pessimistic about your chances, because like I said, like, it it could literally rob you of a championship. You don't know, right? You don't always know. It's hard to know, right? And so I like to kind of steal this philosophy from Adam Harstad, where it's like you just want to make your team better. That's your goal. Your goal is to make your team better. If your team has more talented players on it than the day before, you did something good, right? You don't necessarily need to be like, oh, okay, this increased my contending value this much and my future value this much. Yes, those are fine. You want to keep a balance between the two of those things to make sure your team doesn't get to a point where like you don't have a choice but to rebuild. But at the same time, I think you can get away with some rosters that are not necessarily optimal, but still always kind of have a fighting chance, right? And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this isn't the most optimal strategy in the world. Maybe it's actually suboptimal. But to me, it's the most fun way to play it. You kind of are invested every single year in the outcome of your league. You get to be creative with the types of trades that you make, because you're not necessarily working from a situation of value surplus, but one of a deficit, right? Where you need to try to attack some potential breakout profiles. You need to kind of take a chance on a veteran that people don't like because he's risky, because he's old. You need to do some of these things to kind of give yourself a fighter's chance, and that's fun. That is a perfectly viable way to build, and I just don't see enough people saying like that's fine. Like the mediocrity treadmill. I've seen so many people say, "Oh, that's horrible. Like you never want to just be muddling around at 5th or 6th place every year." And it's like, well, those teams can win sometimes. So maybe we shouldn't just completely poo-poo them and just only want our teams to have first round buys, because getting a first round buy is hard. Even if you do build this super team, it is still not a guarantee that you get that first round buy. So, and it's also not a guarantee that a kind of mediocre team doesn't, ascend and get that top first round buy. So I think some general wisdom here is that, don't go in any extreme. One thing that I think I've learned the most in Dynasty is that you want to be very level-headed and think about things in a very zen manner. The more you can kind of not be so overreactionary and overly emotional, the more you can kind of just be like, yeah, my chances don't look good, but maybe it could work out. Or, my team's really good, but I could see this going badly. Like, generally, you want to be in the middle. Being in the middle is not so bad mentally. And being in the middle with your rosters is not so bad either.